Guys, this is Jana Brown from the Geek Girls Academy coming to talk to you this morning. This is the more you know, and today we are going to talk about, I hate to say it almost, we're going to talk about rejection, resilience, and professionalism. Okay, we need to do this, and this is sometimes a thing that comes up, and I've seen it coming up more and more on various servers, Discord servers, and chat rooms, and forums, and all sorts of other things. Lots and lots of people jumping in and saying, I don't like being rejected. I agree with that. Me either. And I didn't think there'd be so much of it in indie publishing. There is, and it's in publishing in general. So it doesn't matter how you want to publish, there's going to be rejection involved. Okay. So points where you're going to run into rejection. You have self-rejection, which is that point when you've read your book 17 times and you look at it and you go, what drunk monkey wrote this? We all go through this. Okay, I can't say all because all is way too general. Most of us go through this at some point where we look back at some book or something we wrote and we go, I could have done that so much better. I suck. That's self-rejection. It's a thing. So sometimes it happens there. If you're going traditional, you may get rejected by your dream agent who says this isn't for me and I'm not going to pick it up. You will be rejected by editors who say this is not the book that we want for our press. That's requiring editors. You're going to get edits from the editors that get hired, and those can feel like rejections too. Okay. When an editor goes through your manuscript that you thought was lovely and beautiful and all done, and it comes back and it's just bleeding red at the edges, that's a rejection. That's the way it feels. Okay. So it's an emotional rejection that goes, but my story isn't good enough. And you've got fixes that go there. That can all be rejection. You get rejections from the readers. You get the readers who read this book, and instead of saying, I laughed, I cried, it was better than Cats, they go, this was the stupidest book ever, and I think the author should die. And sometimes those are personal to you and to your book. Okay. Readers are sometimes mean. It's very much a rejection. On the indie side, we get the same kind of thing. We get while we can control getting our books into circulation, which is a thing that I like over traditional publishing, where it's kind of a roll of the dice to see if somebody else will or won't pick you up. I can be guaranteed that I can get my book out. But I still get those points from my critique partners, my beta readers, my editors, all those people who may say, I don't like this part. And anytime someone says, I don't like something that you created, it's rejection and it doesn't feel good. You may go to a bookstore and say, will you carry my books? And they may come back and say, no, we don't want that kind of book. Or we don't like your particular book. It doesn't work for our audience. And so again, you get the rejections. So this happens all the time. Why is it that we still throw ourselves against publishing if it's a place where it is so fraught with peril? That comes down to two things. Number one, most of us write because we're passionate about writing and we're fairly good at it. We have some talent, and then we have developed that by taking classes, by practicing, and hopefully we are continuing to become better and better writers over our entire career. Your 15th book should be better than your first book was. Your fourth short story should be better than your first one was, because that practice makes you better. Okay. So why are we here? Because we love it. We love doing this, and we see a lot of potential there. We can see that there is the potential for great success, whether that success is writing a book that your mother loves, whether that success is making a 5-figure salary or a 6-figure salary. Let's go for broke here. So there's a lot of potential here for all of those things, but there's also a lot of potential for things to fall apart. When you get in the creative arts, it's like that. It's a very different thing than when you punch clock and you say, I'm going to go in and I'm going to cut fabric today. And you don't get nearly as much rejection there as long as you're cutting the fabric to measure, and away you go. So if you want something that is less risky, you can totally do that, but it's not in the arts. Okay, it's not in publishing. Joining publishing means that you run this risk. So how do you deal with it? This is where resilience comes in, and it's also where professionalism comes in. So resilience says that sometimes you need to walk away and you need to think about what was said, and you need to grow the ability to say, what parts of that are valid and can I learn from? And what parts of that are not valid, that really aren't about me or my work? First of all, a lot of rejection in this industry is about the manuscript, not about you. Okay. You have to be able to cut that divide that says the manuscript is not me. Even though we write a lot of ourselves into our manuscripts, we can't say, well, every time somebody says, I didn't like this, that means they hate you personally, the author. That's different. It's very different. And I look at it and I go, there are so many famous authors and even non-famous authors where I've read most of their catalog. And if you go through their catalog, you can say, oh, I love this series, but this one just it just didn't do it for me. Same author, same everything else. I still love the author. I still want them to have a career, but I might not pick up the books in the series that doesn't connect with me in the same way that the other one does. I'll use Jim Butcher as an example. I loved his Dresden books for a very, very long time. But the Codex Alera ones, they were fine, but they didn't have that same connection point. Okay. Anne McCaffrey's another one of my favorites. And I do not love everything that she wrote. I like the Dragon Riders of Pern. I like the Teletandra books. I like the Crystal, well, that's Crystal Singles. I like the Powers That Be. But then there were some other things that she wrote that was like, huh, I like the Ship Who Sang, but the rest of the books in that series just don't work for me. Again, it's not personal. It's those particular books are not hitting me in that way. And an audience has the right to say that. The audience has the right to feel that way, to sometimes just not connect with your books. It has nothing to do with you. So you have to be able to draw that line between you and the manuscript. You have to be able to say, I'm not going to take this personally. With reviewers, sometimes the best thing to do is don't read your own reviews. Have somebody that you love, that you trust, go and read those reviews and pluck out the points that might be helpful. Like if they read across 12 reviews and every single one of them says, I don't know how to say this person's name in the book, well, then maybe you take that as a thing that says, all right, in the next book, I'm going to have somebody very on purpose have a discussion about how to say their name. It happens. It's happened with Harry Potter. And how do you say Hermione? That's part of why Victor Crumb, they have that whole scene where he says it funny and she corrects him because that was also for the audience. And that was something that was drawn out from looking at what readers were saying and going, oh, I can plug that hole. So sometimes, even though it is a rejection, is a criticism, it means that you can learn from it and you can do things better. So learn to know the difference, grow a thick skin, don't talk to the people that make you sad. Don't read the reviews if the harshness of it scares you away from writing. And sometimes you may have to back off and not be in publishing for a little bit until you can do that. And I've had friends who've done that, who've said, I just need a break from all of the noise for a minute. And they've kind of shut off Facebook and social media and this, that, and the other, taking a deep breath until they could come back in. That's okay. Take care of yourself. Part of resiliency is taking care of yourself and knowing how to take care of yourself. It also helps a lot if you have a writing partner or a writing group or a really supportive spouse. If you have somebody that you can vent with and you can go, this isn't fair. Why isn't it not fair? Because we like to use the word fair, even though fair has nothing to do with it. But to be able to vent and talk about it and talk your way back around to, again, remembering that it's the manuscript, it's the timing, it's lots of other things. It's not about you, but it's about that situation. That's going to help. Now, professionalism. This is a really, really important one because we live in an age where everybody feels like when I have a feeling, I need to defend that feeling, and I often need to shove that feeling back at the person who's making me feel that feeling, all those kinds of things. Guys, that's what therapy is for. It's not, these things aren't personal. You can't make them personal because then you become a bad actor and you become somebody that services know to avoid. Okay. So when somebody says this book won't work for us, when you come back and say, well, of course it will, it's the best book ever. It's well written and it's this, that, and the other. And I don't know why you won't take it, blah, 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 blah. They don't want to deal with you anymore. They just don't. I work for a promotion company. We regularly have people who will email us after they've had a promo run and will tell us that our service sucked and we suck and everything sucks and it's just spewing bile onto the screen. And they go into a nice little box that says, never work with these people again. And in the industry, especially in the back end, people talk. So if you ream an editor out and somebody else later comes and says, hey, did you work with this person? That editor is not going to have your back. That editor's going to say, yeah, I worked with that person and she's awful. She was a nightmare to work with. You probably shouldn't either. You don't want to be that kind of person. You must be a professional. And you can be seething inside or really sad inside and still say, I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I had. Thank you for letting me submit my book, my story, my this, that, and the other. I would love to know the next time you have an open call. Make those connections and keep them healthy. And, take your time, eat your ice cream, do whatever it is that you need to do to deal with the emotions, because your emotions are real, they're strong, they're valid. But it doesn't mean you get to act out on them. Okay. So that is professionalism. You got to be professional in the field. It doesn't take long for you to find killer stories of authors who did the unprofessional thing and who lost contracts, who lost editors, who lost all of those things. The internet tracks that stuff down. So just don't. If you feel like you're going to, if you want to really vent that spleen juice, do it on paper and pencil so that you can't accidentally hit send, and then burn it when you're done. Or go and have an ice cream with your best friend and tell them all about it. But keep it in, don't send it out. Make sure that you're being professional. Because when you are resilient and when you respond in a professional way, you're going to find that more opportunities will open up. And sometimes something that feels like a rejection at first is going to lead to something better. So that happens. I've had places where I got a story rejected in one place and had somebody else immediately go, oh, but I want this kind of idea. And I was able to just turn around and sell it somewhere else. So there's very often opportunity that comes, even in the midst of something that doesn't feel very good. So there you go. There's your pep talk. You can do this. You are wonderful. We are so glad that you come and hang out with us here at the Geek Girls Academy and get your pencils moving. That's another, the more you know. Bye-bye now.